But actually, we're not done yet, because now comes the very interesting part. Now it comes to you. It's time for you to ask questions. Who would like to get started with a question? Or maybe we have also plenty of questions already on social media.
If not, we will ask questions.
So we have one question for Cristina from Franziska, who asks, what keeps you always daring to explore the new?
It's in me, you know, I cannot resist it. So sometimes I tell myself I should just settle down, you know, take it easy, but it just doesn't work. So it's in me. So there's something in me that keeps on being curious, and I think I am an explorer. Just this is what I am, and I like to challenge myself, although it's painful. So it is not that I do not regret it sometimes, but the most extraordinary things and also people I've met in my life happened because I dared to just get out of the comfort zone. And I think this is what motivates me to keep on doing that.
Cool, thank you. Next question.
I would like to start with a comment that the word Siemens does have a woman in it. It's just in German.
Okay.
So, but now to the question. I have reflection about large corporations and also educational systems. They've been mostly built by men. And men think very differently than women. From the neuroscience perspective, they got very specific. They go to the point. They become very expert. They have more connections in the brain, according to neuroscience, between frontal cortex and back, whereas the women have more connections across. So we are more holistic, theoretically. I don't know, maybe not. I would pose a question. How do you think organization of tomorrow should look like to be more fitting to the way that the women hormones, brain structure, socialization ways, being authentic and things like this work? How should organization adapt both education and large corporations? Thank you.
Who wants to take that?
Maybe one comment. So I was actually under this year's International Women's Day in Vancouver for a panel where some representatives from different countries were coming together for women in STEM, and we discussed also this point of that, for example, usually in big buildings the temperature is also it's adjusted to men, and that's why women always freeze in there. So this is one step maybe to, but then of course the man shouldn't feel hot either. So I think it's really important that it comes to more kind of a, also I talk a lot about personalized medicine, personalized environments, figuring out, I think, Lucy, you had this interesting part about just lighting and shading, and I think maybe there would be more in buildings about actually responding to people. And here I really want to say people, not only women, we should not leave the man behind completely. But that's a very important point. It's true, the environment is built by men, and that's why there need some changes. But I do also think that a lot is in the shift now. The generations are now growing, and that's why also really your work, Cristina, is so important. That from the very little one now need to already set their minds and not seeing these, like not thinking in the differences between men and women, but rather getting a joint good environment.
And I think in the corporation world, we shouldn't really even talk about men or women. From my perspective, today in Europe, we are still talking about, because that's something still not balanced. But however, back to China, nobody talk about that. And if you look at in the companies, there are a lot of women, and there are a lot of engineers, a lot of CEOs, and a lot of people in the management. So I think when the sociality is already balanced, then don't really force that anymore. And I think they depend on the job, depend on the knowledge, and then depend on what you can contribute in the company, that the job should be just balanced, either men or either women or either, doesn't matter.
Yeah. So that actually draws back to what Melanie said at the very beginning. Eventually, we would just like to talk about innovation and tech, not about and leave the diversity angle behind. Melanie, do you have another question from us, or is there another live question that we can ask?
So we had another question, so you can also think about one. There was Marie-Laure who asked the question, women leaders sometimes see the success of another woman as their own failure, especially at the most senior levels. So why do we feel like there is only room for one woman at the table? And how can women as co-workers, line manager, or even subordinate celebrate, support, and lift each other up? So it's a question for everyone.
Question?
Is it that way? I mean, I do.
A question, or is a question to?
It is a question, but I mean, she states that you can also talk about whether you think that is the case, or whether this was old school and we're now living in a better world. So.
No, I think I don't. For me, for example, I wouldn't say that it's. I wouldn't compare and say that I feel as failure, but not, like I'm happy then for my colleague. I think we and we are also getting more women. I think it depends on the climate. Definitely, it's. I mean, when I started my studies, we were, I think, 15 females, and it was this course of 600 students. In Japan, I was the only woman. It was always kind of a fight on your own. But now I feel there is some change, and I appreciate that we have a network and we support each other. And I mentioned before I had there was first this female physics professor who didn't trust in me, but then later my mentor or an advisor, or basically professor. During my studies, who pushed me, and then later really again a female professor at MIT who told me, yeah, I see you have the potential for a professor. And so I think right now it's more we should just the more women we see around us, I think it will just naturally evolve that we more that it's getting supportive. Yeah.
And maybe I can use a bit Chinese philosophy. We was always thinking about if somebody is above you and somebody is on top or leading some team or seems successful, this person must have some great points which you can discover, which you could learn about that. I think that's really, you should focusing on that side. It's not only for people above you, also people beside of you, doesn't matter women or men, you are working together, you should always looking the good parts of this person, searching the good parts of the person naturally, and then that's also the thing which I back to, you need to build up relationship, not trying to destroy relationship. And my mom very often teach me that whenever you build a good relationship or friendship, you build a road in front of you. But whenever you destroy a relationship, that means you are building a wall on your road. So why should you think in that way and rather try to make more positive thinking of others?
At We Are PlayLab Foundation, we are experimenting also with new models of work, because we believe also that on that front we can do much better. And when you take inspiration from biology and when you look at ecosystems, that question doesn't exist anymore, because it is not so much about titles or positions or hierarchies. It is about more collective intelligence and about things that need to get done. And I am the happy owner of at least 10 different hats that I exchange during the day constantly, because I jump from being, the designer to being the workshop facilitator to doing the accounting. So I am particularly excited and also inspired by these new types of organization where I think we use more a deeper sense of connection, of human connection. And then once the vision and the mission is clear, and once the authenticity is there and you're there for real, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You show up as your true self. And with the right people, of course, you need to have the right people who embrace the same vision and values and beliefs. And in the right environment, it's really interesting to see how things can take shape.
All right. People get hungry, I think. So you want to take, I think there are more questions on social media. Shall we take, if there is no audience question, shall we take one more?
There's one.
There's one? Okay, great.
So my question is, what do you see as good leadership? How are you yourself maybe good leaders, but especially what did you see in leaders that you maybe had previously? How did they bring you forward? What did you value in them especially?
Does this question go to somebody specific?
No, not necessarily. Anyone.
I already jumped on it because it was like when you said I had the pleasure to work. One of the former Evernote CEOs was Phil Libin, and he was definitely one of the leaders and the people that just if Evernote got to the point it got in so little time, it was certainly because of him and the leadership at Evernote. And for me, when I joined Evernote, especially coming from Switzerland, and as I was telling the story already for the job interview, I showed up with all the diplomas and, all the things that you need to bring, and they just didn't want to look at it. So they just wanted to connect with you on a personal level and really just start thinking about what can be done. And for me, when I joined Evernote, it really felt like, just getting on a spaceship and flying into far, far future. Because suddenly, I just discovered a whole new way of working. First of all, with these incredibly smart and inspiring people. But then there was just, as you say, this amazing leadership of empowering people, So just having that strong vision, and everybody didn't take it as a job. It was really, we were all on a mission, and we were just incredibly happy to be together and to try to build something that can increase the world's productivity. And I think this is so important. Also, at We Are Play Lab today, it is not possible not to have leadership of some sort. So things don't really happen by themselves. So you have to create a playground, or you have to have a framework, and it can be very different, but you have to have something that keeps it all together. And luckily, the more people like you join, the more it becomes this kind of collective intelligence, and you have to do less and less. But I think leadership, in the sense of empowering people to be their very best and creating a powerful learning environment for everybody, is key.
Melanie, maybe you will go with one more question, or
so there.
But it kind of reflects the same. I just wanted to add that I think something important is also to. So what I appreciated about mentors or leaders was kind of that I felt they listened and they cared about me, and that means also that a leader doesn't have one very strong leadership style, but also adapts to the individual people. So I learned this with my students. They're different learners and they're different styles, and to get them to basically help them grow, you also need to adapt how you interact with them. And they're kind of, and this is just one other note of like creating. So for me, it's also really important to create an environment where they are creative and where they feel well. So also new members coming to the lab, they have to be accepted by all others. So it's not that I just decide this person comes now in, for example. So this is kind of creating a productive environment. And in the end, if it comes to well-being in that sense, I mean, what I want is that they grow and that they're well. And well-being can be, there's actually a theory of how you define well-being. It's autonomy, feeling capable, and connected. And if you try to enable them to feel autonomous, that they own their project, they own their work, they feel capable of doing it, and have an environment where they're connected and help each other, that's kind of the pillars I look for.
Wow, I think with this high note, let's close off the panel. So thank you very much to all of you. Thank you. So as Melanie mentioned, we have a few events coming up. If you want to go with us for a casual cheese fondue, join us on the Christmas market in Zurich for a Christmas rendezvous. If you're interested in networking in very small, intimate circles, 5 people each, join us for networking circles in January. And there are many more events like on artificial intelligence, data privacy, etc. And with that, I hand over to Melanie.
Yeah, exactly. as we also mentioned at the beginning, we also have a newsletter we send out once a month. And then I now have the great pleasure to actually thank the people who made that possible personally, and I asked them to actually come on stage because we have some really nice flowers that we warm welcome, warm. So Lynette Jackson, you saw her on stage, Alexander Senn and Mariana, Porley and Franziska Dolak. They made this event possible. Then we also have some others that we would like to have on stage if you're still here. Some are already preparing stuff. And then
Lynette, can we give this
another
Alexander, thank you.
Clapping for our wonderful supporters who will get some chocolate afterwards, but they are still giving flowers. We really appreciated the work we had with Siemens team, and thank you again. I guess we can clap again for this wonderful community that we got to know. Yeah, and now I'm leaving you with the note that there is an apéro, and for the first time in WeShape Tech's history, we even have a saxophone player who is now going on stage. So have fun and have a nice evening. Thank you very much.